Trussville Council considers a pause on house demolition in the Cahaba project and unexpected railroad crossing closures in Trussville. Tribune Unscripted starts now. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday for Tribune Unscripted. I'm Brandon Dawkins with Tribune Digital Media, here with Scott Buttram, publisher of the Trussville Tribune, and Dr. Patrick Barton, who is superintendent of our schools here in Trussville. We are going to talk about those things that I mentioned earlier, but first we do want to get started with school. I already received my school registration email, so it's time to get out the forms and get all of that going. It just reminds you that we're not that many weeks away from the start of school, as shocking as it is. And I know you guys stay busy in the summer. Right. So what's going on this summer?
Well, I want to thank you for allowing me to come in and say hello. You're right. I got my 4 SNAP codes and links to register the Martin kids as well. Let's see. July 4th is 1 month away from Institute, which is August 4th, and then August 6th and 7th. We have students coming back. That's right. So hard to believe it's going this fast.
It is.
I did not get my registration codes this summer,
right.
and I want to thank you for that. We have enjoyed it more than we ever dreamed possible. We love not having a kid in K through 12 any longer.
I hope it's okay. We did still send you the fees link, so you'll receive those. So yeah,
we'll probably pay them out of habit.
That's right. So we were hoping you wouldn't notice.
That's funny. Well, what are y'all working on before going back to school?
Sure. So a lot of things going on. It's great because there at the Board of Education, we still have a lot of teachers that are coming in. Actually, on Wednesday, we had 2 different groups of special education teachers coming in to work with us on a new platform that we're using for students in that demographic group. Right now, you'll notice if you drive by the stadium, we're putting down a new track.
Yeah,
they're getting close to that being done.
I have watched it in layers. Right. It's really interesting to watch.
Yep, and I drove past it today. The colors really pop. So I'm excited to see that project done.
Did we put a new logo in the center of the field, or is that
larger? So when we redid the field, it's a larger Husky
different.
head. That's right, and it's going to look better even with the new track.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The old track was 11 years old. It was dated. It had started to fade.
Right.
So it was time, and so we thank the City Council for supporting us with that. If you remember the bond that they helped us to refinance, which paid pretty much for the entire track installation.
We got kind of lucky on that bond. It hit a sweet spot.
That's right. That's right.
Was kind of you can't pass this opportunity up.
That's right. And Ben Short, I'll tell you, with the mayor and city council, when we call and ask them, and we can provide research and data to support it, they're very supportive. So just to give you an idea, a simple refi, terms of that bond did not change. We got about $1 million out of that, and the track cost 1.2. Yeah. So $200,000 out of pocket for a $1.2 million track.
In that same little area, did they put a fresh coat of paint or something on the football? It looks better.
Right. That's right. Yes, and there are some new with our agreement with Buffalo Rock, you'll start to notice some decals and graphics going up around the different sites as well. Okay. So C-Wing is continuing to track at the high school.
When will that open?
December 2026.
Okay.
So our hope is that we are moving into that side of the high school by the start of second semester.
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome.
That's
so working with teachers and working through some of our capital projects. I'll tell you, one of my favorite things to see is when I'm driving to work or going to grab lunch or what, students on bikes. Our kids out playing. The pools are packed. I love that our kids and our teachers even are also getting some time, so refresh and get ready for the next school year.
Absolutely.
What is the life on that track? We talked about this before, but I forgot.
I'd say
9 years, 8
right
years?
around that decade time frame.
Okay.
That's right. And the same thing with the turf. You try to replace those. You start getting into that 10, 11, 12 year time frame. It's time to look at it.
Well, it's looking good. And it's looking brand new again, too. I kind of like that.
It really does. It looks super nice. Any changes? You guys made a lot of announcements at the end of the year with the potential of a new elementary school, maybe down in the future.
Right.
That it's really started to hit me as the city has talked about that Camp Coleman Road project, and we're following that development that could include elementary school. For most of us with kids in school now, that's really not even going to affect us, but we're happy about that in the future. Any other changes that you are starting to see as you really start to take those plans seriously?
Well, and you stop and you think we would have to determine a funding mechanism. an elementary school will be in that $40 to $45 million range. Okay. We don't have that. City doesn't have that. I'll tell you, the high school bond and Cahaba and Magnolia with the $7 million, you're talking 2038, 2042 until we really have access to debt service to be able to go out and afford a school like that. Right. So with that said, that determination will have to be made in terms of what's the funding mechanism.
Okay.
Then you're looking at 3-4 years in construction. So we're talking a ways down the road before we start to see that come online.
Okay.
Mayor Short, when he was here, we were having conversation around what that configuration would look like potentially. One of the options we've discussed is, do elementary schools go to a K-6 model?
Right.
Some of the successful school systems in Jefferson County, probably the most renowned in terms of academics, Mountain Brook, that's what they utilize. They have a junior high, they have a K-6 elementary school model, so we can see where it's successful, but I do think that'll have to be a conversation the community has, and then I'll take a recommendation to the board with that data to make an informed decision.
I have personally always felt that moving 6th graders up with 7th and 8th graders was a mistake. And I'm going back decades to when that first started. I just felt like emotionally that was not a good match. It's challenging enough to be a 7th grader leaving the elementary school and going into a junior high, but 6th grade, I felt like that was emotionally challenging for a lot of those kids. And so I would be all on board with that. Questions have arisen from parents who have kids involved with specials, different extracurricular activities, how that would work out. I think you've already pointed out we're probably 4 or 5 years down the road. As Brandon said, our most of these kids who have questions at this point will probably be in high school by the time this happens. But that is something you'll have to look at. If you make a change in the lineup and how you break down grades, that's something you guys will go in and look at and have on the table right off the bat, I'm assuming.
That's right, and have those conversations. It's hard because our architect, Ryan Vernon with Lathan, talks about form following function. So this is not an issue of where we're just having a conversation, okay, what is the best instructionally and the maturation of our students, what's the best? This is really being driven by the structure. Our middle school is at a point where we, from a lunchroom standpoint, can't continue to accommodate the students the way that we want to. And so because of that, we have to have these conversations about, if the city continues to grow, one of two things: do we do construction at the middle school? Do we have a middle school of 1,400, 1,500 students? Do we look at something like pulling 6th grade out? You know, those are conversations that have to be had, and not from the standpoint of what's best instructionally, but from a structure standpoint with our facilities, what do they accommodate? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you could go ahead and drop the if from that sentence, because the school is going to continue to grow, which means the community is going to continue to grow, and of course that's all your fault.
Well, yeah, I would say our principals and our Board of Education are outstanding, and because they do so well, and because we have exceptional teachers, I will add this. I was with Eric Mackey, our state superintendent. This has been a couple of weeks ago, and when he was bragging about Trussville City Schools, one of the things that he mentioned was Trussville has the highest retention of teachers in the state. And so because we have all of that going on, people want to be here, they want to be our neighbors, they want to put their students in our schools.
On that topic specifically, I'm curious, do we have a higher rate of teachers that actually live in our district than maybe other systems?
We've run, so when we were going through and discussing the tax vote with our different staffs, I remember Aaron King calling me, and he had asked his staff, how many of you live in Trussville? And a large majority, 80%, raised their hands. So, and I love that. I love that because they're in a similar situation that I am. You know, when you choose to have your own children in the system where you're working, you're sort of putting your money where your mouth is.
That's right.
So, I mean, I want my students here, my own children, because I know it's a good product and they're going to benefit from that. Your children want here, your children go here. So we are beneficiaries, as well as it just makes you work that much harder knowing that your children will benefit as well.
I think the teacher retention deal is a big deal because it hasn't always been that case. I think there was a time during different periods where teachers did look to move from Trussville to, maybe a system that they thought was better or would be better for them. If they're moving closer to home, that's kind of a different thing.
Yeah.
But the fact that we are retaining so many of our teachers and that so many of them live in Trussville, I agree with everything. I think community pride kicks in. That's their kids, and this is the town where they live, and they want to stay here.
And let me share, our Board of Education knows that, but it's one of those things where you could sit back and rest on your laurels, but that is ever changing. And so I give them credit for having the foresight. At our last Board of Education meeting, we just approved a third party to come in and do a complete evaluation of our salary schedules. It seems like every time, and we did this 2 years ago, remember?
Yeah.
Every time we adjust, we know our competitors and peers adjust as well. So then you have to come back to the table, and so that over the course of the next year is something we'll be doing, is looking at salary schedules and our peers' salary schedules to make sure we continue to be competitive.
Yeah, the public probably understands this, but if you don't, every public school district in Alabama has to publish their salary schedule.
That's right.
It's online, it's available for teachers to look at. It is used as a recruiting tool, and my wife can give you a little insight because she turned down a lot.
Yeah.
But they knew when it changed. The school that wanted her knew when it changed, and they knew when to come back because they knew what she was looking at, and that's how they did it. It raised a lot of questions in our family because Trussville actually, now this, I'm going back 10 years, Trussville pays years 1 through 10 very well. One of the best around.
Definitely in Jefferson County.
Yeah,
yes.
But other systems pay that 15 to 25.
Right.
Because they're looking for experience. And so it's the board and you will have to decide where are we going to prioritize and who are we going to protect.
Well, and I appreciate Jim Kirkland because he's actually the one, the two of us sit down and we look at the nuances. So we will pick 8 to 12 peers. Competitive peers when it comes to everything from academics to culture to how their students produce. We'll look at the nuances of every single cell in comparison to those peers, and make sure that we can go out and get the best teachers for our students.
Jim Kirkland is an education financial guru, and we probably don't talk about that enough. We have been so fortunate to have him in this system from day one. He's not ever going to retire, right?
I've asked him. He's on a 20-year contract.
That's a good deal.
Yes. So
did you just re-sign him?
He doesn't know it yet, but he's on a 20-year contract. That's right.
His wife signed the contract.
Yeah. He and Sandra both are on a similar contract there. So.
Hey, on the high school, back to the high school side of things, last year we, because one of the early things you did here in your first few years, appropriately so, was really take a hard look at school security, and we had some changes at the high school last year with how they enter, and did all that go well?
It
or
did.
Are we going to continue that, or changes there people
No,
need to
we
know
continue.
about?
So I was going to mention one of the things you asked about was what happens in the summer. So we actually have an administrative retreat, and as part of that retreat, we invite all of our first responders. So Chief Moret and Chief Schatz and Mayor Ben and everybody will be there. And we have these conversations, but little things like you'll notice when you pull up to the high school. I actually have some very good friends and family in town, and as we showed them the high school and driving around, there are those pillars now in the front. Well, those are bollards.
Right.
Yeah.
So they look nice, and they're pillars that just accentuate the rest of the facility. But those are safety bollards, so someone can't just actually drive up.
A vehicle
That's
through the
right.
door.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is blend that into the rest of the facility. And so those are just some of the things we're trying to do from a safety standpoint. Hard features such as those, and then always looking at our policies and procedures. One of the items that we identified as an MOU with our SROs needs to be updated. Been talking with Mayor Ben about that. And so, yes, always having conversations about safety and security.
I've got a couple of questions that are both off the script. I know you hate that.
Nope,
but you don't run
please,
from anything, so I'm going to bring them up anyway.
Yeah, please.
One is, and this was prior to your arrival, I'm not speaking out of school because it was all over social media, which is why it started becoming an issue. We had an issue with fights in the hallways of the high school, fights in the cafeteria, to the point, and I'm telling Sarah a little bit, I texted her one day because I had a video sent to me by a parent who got it from their student of a brawl that our former principal was in the middle of. He ended up getting injured trying to break it up. That was going on. I texted my daughter, who I think was a junior that year, and said, hey, what about this fight going on? And her text response was, which one?
Okay.
There was one on ground floor and one on the top floor at the same time. And I bring that up because it was an issue. What is Aaron King, what are our administrators seeing now in the schools? Is that something that we've been able to kind of pull under control? Because teenagers can be teenagers. Yeah. We know that can happen no matter who's in charge, but is it an ongoing problem? Because I think it was at one point.
Well, and I can, not being here, you know, some of that, I have a lot of confidence in Aaron King and the team that he's assembled. What I can look at is the data. And so, you know, we're required to post our student incident reports. It's the SIR report. We provide those in June to our Board of Education, and we have just continually seen the data on those SIR reports go down. Now, that's not to say that things don't happen, that we have students in the parking lot or whatnot. That's right. But I'll tell you, the best thing that Aaron King has done is he has partnered with staff to be vigilant in the hallways. And if you walk through the hallways now, I think Sarah may have seen a notice as well, but you see your teachers outside their classrooms in the hallways supervising. Just that adult presence, I think, helps with that.
I would not want to be a student in a fight with the threat that Aaron King may be the one to break it up either. He's still got a lot of military in him. You know?
I'll say you beat me to the punch, because what I was going to say about Aaron King, who, by the way, I think he is right now hiking the Appalachian Trail for like 5 days. I know it because he won't answer me except for on his satellite phone. But, you know, when you walk into his office and he has a sword behind his desk from West Point and a certificate that he has a black belt in judo, you start to think differently in terms of what you might do in that high school.
I want him on my side.
I have 2 kids there, and I tell them, look at the floor when you walk past Aaron King. So
I love it. I love it. All right, we'll throw one more subject at you that you and I discussed privately a lot.
Yes.
But I think we ought to start having this conversation a little bit more publicly. Recruiting in high school athletics.
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't know you were going there.
Well, it's honestly reached the point. We've had several coaches, 3 or 4, suspended for the upcoming season for illegal recruiting. We know it goes on. Yeah. We've seen it go on. As a superintendent, what are your thoughts? How does Trussville City Schools handle that situation?
And I watched it. You had Jerry Hood, and I can't remember who was the other. Oh, it was Yeager.
Yeah,
you had Yeager
Chris
on.
Yeager.
Yep. So you had those 2 coaches on and having conversations. We all want to win.
Yeah.
You know, we all want to be competitive and put a competitive. I have my own children. I'll just say this: with sports, we want to win. We talk about everyday excellence in academics, athletics, and the arts. But I'm still frustrated that we didn't win the Hoover Invitational for our band program. We got 2 of the 5. I thought we should have gotten 4. Maybe I'm biased, but I'm just saying we want to win in every aspect.
I agree with you on that.
I do too. I want to see who's going to beat our band group, because they're the best I've ever seen.
All of our different fine arts as well. I was super excited when Sarah got the scholarship to go to Montevallo.
So were we.
I know, but I'm just saying, I want all of our kids to be successful. In the area of athletics, I want to win, but not at the expense of doing it the wrong way.
Right.
If I ever found out in our school system we were doing it the wrong way, I have to have conversations with those coaches. I trust Lance Walker. I'll say this, if it's even a question, and I know this because Lance and I have dealt with some situations, he is probably in the state the most vigilant of sending a letter, reaching out to Heath Harmon at the High School Athletic Association and getting a response from him before we even move forward. I know just little things. We hired a coach who has a very talented daughter. Before that process ever took place, he was in contact with the High School Athletic Association. Not all programs do that.
My concern, as someone who loves high school athletics and really think it's the purest form of athletics in our society today, I used to feel that way about college. I don't anymore. It's become a business, and it's worse than becoming a business. It has become a cottage industry for a lot of individual players, which does not lend itself to the team concept. I'm afraid if this gets worse in high school, we may lose high school athletics as we know them. I don't think they'll ever go away completely, but they may take another form like club sports.
And you
I
see
think
that
that'd
in
be a
Europe.
community
You
loss.
see that in Europe.
You do see it
Europe
in
does
Europe.
not have athletics affiliated
That's
with their
right.
schools. They have it affiliated with a football club.
And that's going to leave kids out. Patrick.
That's right. I agree.
Well, and what struck me the day that that Coach Hood and Coach Yeager were here, and I didn't even know that they were coming that day. That was a surprise for me. And so
You're welcome.
it was because it was a great interview. But what struck me was their emphasis on allowing kids from a community to represent their school and the importance of that. But as a community, though, because like you said, everybody wants to win. You have to be okay with, well, are you winning or losing right now? Are you mediocre? But that's just what you are. You know, maybe in that sport at this particular time, and that as a community, you have to be okay with that. And I feel like nobody is anymore.
No, and the other thing too is, so when it comes to your athletes, and that's the charge I have for our coaches, we have to create a culture such that, and those two coaches have done this. I mean, Yeager now is coaching student athletes who are older brothers, perhaps parents of some of the kids that he has, you know, from the past. And so we have to build a culture such that when those instant gratifications start to become prevalent, our students want to be part of our culture and don't want to leave. I think that's what we have to do on our end, building those relationships and cultures with our athletes so they want to continue to be here. And I'll just say this, you know, I've got two older ones that have played sports. I want my youngest, who I joke about, to watch them, to watch the culture, and one day he wants to hit that rock at Husky Stadium and run out like his older brother did.
That's right. That's right.
So,
I have been vocal and critical of the AHSAA and the way they have handled some of this stuff over the years. This summer, for the first time, I have sensed a change. Am I wrong?
No, you and I.
You think you're seeing a change?
No, I'll tell you, it is hard to replace a Steve Savarese. It is hard to replace some of those. I was the same way with Coach Harmon. My eyes have been turned as well towards, okay, there's some activism going on here by that group, making sure that people are being held accountable.
I am happy with what I'm seeing. I'm still in the Missouri camp. Show me. Because I'm going to have to see it. And I'm not completely sold on the current leadership at AHSAA, but I feel better about it. And I do feel like I'm seeing a little more responsive attitude. So that's a positive, and we'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that. So. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think
okay. Well, I guess you're off the hook until school starts and we start getting rumors from parents, and you'll be right back.
I appreciate it, as always, and I appreciate you always inviting me.
And let me just share with our audience, we didn't have a guest today. We needed some help. And
we had a guest, but everybody had to move around.
We did. We had to shift a lot of people around, and we really felt we needed one because it makes the show much better. And you're always open to coming. I knew if you were in town, you would come.
That's right.
And you brought guests who were kind of a gift. So that's good.
Up until about 10 minutes ago, he was my absolute best friend, but the second he starts talking about my basketball career, I may send him back.
He bragged on you. He said he had good things to say.
Yeah, we'll see. But it was fun to hear you guys talk basketball.
Well, and you know, when you're married to a Hall of Fame coach, you need a little pick-me-up every now and then.
I'll tell you this, real quick story. So we're at the Hall of Fame, and you have Kansas City Chiefs and Royals and different folks going in, and so my wife's going in as well, and her father pulls me aside and he says, if there was any question on where the athletic ability comes from, tonight puts this all to rest.
I love it.
Great line.
I love it.
That's fantastic.
It's a good line.
Well, I told Tara, from now on, you realize you will be introduced as Hall of Fame coach Taryn Martin, and she stood there a minute, and she leaned in and said, I think I could get used to it.
I'm sure she could. I'm very proud.
100%.
So.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, as always,
Absolutely.
Dr. Barton, for your time.
Thank you.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some other important things going on in Trussville, and then later we have important things going on from the entire Tribune area. So stay with us. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, let's turn towards the council meeting in Trussville this week. Some interesting conversation, didn't really go anywhere, but Councilman Jim Miller brought up a possible moratorium on home demolition in the Cahaba project.
Yeah.
We've done that before. Mayor Buddy Choate did it when
It was his first official action when he took office.
Golly, it was, wasn't it?
Yep.
And so we saw that happen once. Just if they tried to figure things out, didn't really go anywhere. But there's some other things at play here. I don't know how much you want to get into it with people.
Well, let's give a little recap first, because I'm glad you brought that up. That was Buddy Choate's first official action when he took office as mayor, is they did a 90-day moratorium on demolitions in the project area, and the Tribune did extensive reporting on that. And a house had come down and a new one was going up. It was a beautiful home, but it didn't really fit, what had traditionally been in the project area. So the conversation kind of started there. The moratorium ended with some minor changes, primarily on how you would obtain a demolition permit and how the council would be made aware of that.
Right.
I don't know that it made a big difference. It certainly didn't really change the thing. The process.
But you're right. It did change how people were informed and that the city was informed, because the first one that came down,
nobody knew. It just happened, and we need to point out the homeowner was well within his rights to do what he did, because there was nothing in place, and there have been more.
It was just the first time that had happened.
That's right. It was kind of shocking because that had kind of been really a sacred area because of the historic value that is a piece of American history. At one point, it was the largest intact WPA project remaining in America, and these were the projects that pulled America out of the Great Depression. And Trussville was a key piece, and to have all of those pieces, including the school, the Heritage Hall, which was, I believe, a commissary originally, and most of the houses still there. So that was really a point of pride. Earned designation on the National Historic Register and the State Historic list as well. So it just kind of caught everybody off guard, right? And there had been a lot of improvements to homes, but that's when the conversation started. 10 years later, it's still going. One of the reasons nothing's ever really been settled on this, and I need to say, I have not got an actual count, but I would be shocked if the demolitions in the last 2 years don't far exceed the few homes that had been lost in the previous 70 years. We lost some to fire and tornadoes.
Oh, absolutely.
A few, but the losses in the last 10 years dwarf the previous losses.
You're probably right.
And that's concerning, because you can lose that historic status. You can lose that designation if it ceases to be a historic area. So the planning and zoning has spent quite a while working on different requirements for a potential historic overlay. I think we kind of thought we would see that a few months ago. We haven't seen it yet, but based on Councilman Jackson's comments, I think it's very close to being recommended, or a recommendation coming to council. So we've seen a few demolitions lately. I don't know that they have anything to do with this coming overlay, but I think there's some concern that there may be some if it looks like the overlay is going to go into effect. But there have been a few recently, which has raised questions. Councilman Miller brought together a proposal, brought to the council during workshop a proposal to place a moratorium on it. There was some conversation. I think we could have had a little better conversation on that, but I don't want to be too judgmental about our council as they try to figure things out. I think Councilman Miller has a good idea here. I think it is an idea worth discussing, because the last thing you want is for the council to be working on potential protections of that area and have a rash of demolitions. I don't know that you would, and you've got to go through a few steps to have that permit approved, which may kind of resolve itself, but I would like to have seen a little bit more of a construction, what's the word I'm looking for?
Constructive conversation?
Constructive conversation. That's a good way to put it, because I was wanting to say constructive criticism, and that's not the right phrase. But constructive conversation among our council on that, and we, I don't know that took place, but I think the door is clearly open to look at Councilman Miller's proposal. He now has the go-ahead from the mayor and the council to, well, go ahead and talk to the city attorney. I think Councilman Miller would have done all that 2 or 3 weeks ago had he gotten a little feedback on that. So hopefully they are moving and taking a good look at it. And who knows, that overlay proposal may get to them before they even get back to a moratorium, and it's not necessary. So we'll see how that works out. But it looks to me like for the first time, this administration, I don't know where this will end. I don't know how this will all land when it's done. But they appear to be very serious about taking a look at this. There are those of us, and I put myself in that group, who are concerned about losing the value of a historic district. Every city doesn't have a historic district. And a lot of the ones that do put protections over them, and a lot have not. And they lose them. They lose them. We talk a lot about the Birmingham train station. We still bemoan the fact that we allowed the Birmingham train station to be demolished. I've seen pictures, and it's like, oh my God, what were we?
When you see pictures, you're like, oh, that was a mistake.
I understand private property, but anyone who lives in the city has private property, but they're under rules. Okay, I don't care where you live. If you're in the city limits, you're under certain rules, and I think it's fine for the city to protect important areas like this. I grew up in Tuscaloosa, which was an antebellum town, much older than Birmingham. And in my lifetime, I saw homes go down that people look back on and go, what were we thinking? I also saw some move to a different location to allow for development. But I honestly get a little depressed when I see some of the pictures of some of those homes, and they were right around downtown Tuscaloosa, that were torn down over the years. And it's just mind-boggling that we were that short-sighted. And I think Trussville has something very unique, very special. And I think most of the people that live in this community were probably swayed heavily by driving through our historic district. I was. The first time I saw it, I thought I was driving through a Norman Rockwell painting. I've since had family members in Tuscaloosa say the same thing. I don't want to see that go away. And some of these homes that have been built are very beautiful homes. They would be beautiful if they were built anywhere in Trussville. They're beautiful where they are. They are beautiful homes. I'm not going to criticize those, but the existing homes are beautiful because they are there as a group. And that's what makes it different. They are beautiful because of the collective of them, and I don't want to see that lost.
Well, we'll follow this through and see what happens.
We will.
So, okay. All right. I was going to ask you about the railroad crossings this week, and it was interesting to read the bit of information you guys put on the website where Mayor Short acknowledged, hey, we are not getting notified. A lot of notice, and he's trying to put out information out to the public, and then he ended up, if I'm understanding it correctly, ended up asking them to push some of it back. Are they making repairs? What is happening?
Yeah, they're repairing the crossings. This is not the first time they do it. This is part of their ongoing maintenance. And I will say,
just not a lot of notice.
Well, just a few years ago, there was a ton of notice. City Hall was notified. We were notified. We all knew actually a week or two before these repairs started, because they closed down the crossing.
When you close down the crossing in Trussville, you're creating
you're
chaos.
Cutting people off.
Yes, and you have to plan for it.
And the mayor said the same thing Tuesday night at the council meeting. I'm going to tell you, I went back through our emails. I went back through everything I could find. We received no notification from Norfolk whatsoever. Ben says the mayor or the city did not receive any notification. Based on the look on his face and the tone of his voice, I believe him, and he is not happy about it, and I don't blame him. It creates hardship on our citizens that we could have given them a heads up on. I don't understand Norfolk. You almost have to scream, yell, and make threats to get their attention. They will respond but they will also sit there and be a bit condescending because they're under federal law, not city ordinances. And that's frustrating, though. They don't want to be embarrassed, so they will work with the community. And we saw some improvements during COVID when their Irondale rail yard, thank you, Ron Burkett, for putting his drone in the air and winning News Photo of the Year for that. But we got a tip. Look at their rail yard. They're using Trussville tracks as parking places. And I think Ron was able to go up and get the photographic evidence that pretty much, they wouldn't admit that, but that's what was going on. And they became responsive. They started moving trains, breaking trains, leaving roads open. But as time passes, we fall right back.
We had the state legislature when they passed the fine structure for how we saw a little bit of improvement then too. I felt like that has started to slack off.
Well, I think Danny Garrett scared them a little bit, despite the fact that they're under federal law. Danny Garrett was a state legislator who had extensive experience in rail and with his days at Southern Rail. He knew their game. He knew how it was played, and they came flocking to Montgomery because they were scared. They realized, this guy might know too much. We better take it seriously. And this is what we see with Norfolk over and over and over. They become responsive. They try to improve things. And I don't know, maybe somebody retired. Maybe somebody else got hired. I don't know. But then you see it slip back to this, well, they're our crossings. We'll fix them when we want to. You're affecting people who are supporting the companies who use your rail service. You better stop doing that.
And I wondered if maintenance was coming because they had dropped so many of the new ties or whatever they're called along the crossings. I knew something was up, but anyway, they've been there for a while now.
Trussville's been working around that railroad for 100 years, 80 years actually. We're about to celebrate our 80th birthday, and it started before we were a city. So we understand that there's going to be issues, and we understand we're going to have to work around those issues.
We're pretty accommodating about it.
Yeah, but not giving us a heads up, no notification until people are trying to go to work and they pull up and the road's closed.
The city's too big for that now.
It is too big for that, and I'm glad the mayor's mad about it, and I hope he takes it out on them.
They do. Okay, one of the more interesting stories of the week, I thought, from the Birmingham metro area had to do with the Pahacas, if I'm saying that correctly, the restaurant group that affected Trussville, who owns Hero Donuts,
multiple communities,
Little Donkey, and then here, of course, Rodney Scott's, and then also Luca Legato, Tasty Town, so many things. But the Shelby County Circuit Court judge ordered that a big group of those have to pay these fines now as part of this ongoing court situation. It involves meat wholesaler Evans Meats, and so a lot of money.
A lot of money, and this is the tip of the iceberg. It does not even, it's not even a drop in the bucket compared to the bigger picture and the larger amounts of money being tossed around. There's real estate involved. They are facing a ton of lawsuits for a ton of different reasons. One of the recent lawsuits was a company who makes like high interest loans to businesses, but when they do that, the business signs an agreement that the payback will come straight out of their bank account. And that group is alleging they signed it, we gave them the money, and then they started changing the names of corporations. And so there's some stuff alleged there that I'm not sure remains in civil court. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to go on a limb there, but I'm looking at things thinking, I don't understand why that might not be criminal. But this is a long way from playing itself out. There are assets, but builders have also filed liens against some of those hard assets like buildings, equipment. It's a mess. I don't remember seeing anything like this hit the restaurant scene in Metro Birmingham since Armand's. And you'll remember that maybe 20 years ago when he had opened several restaurants and they all kind of blew up at the same time. Do you remember?
Yeah, I did a little bit.
And including one in Tuscaloosa that is now Chuck's Fish. But that pales in comparison to what we're seeing here.
Well, and the reason it's an important story here is, of course, because we've got two really nice empty buildings
in the heart of downtown.
In downtown, the main part of Trussville, and how this is going to affect those buildings, because who owns those buildings?
It could be locked up in court for years.
Right?
Yeah.
And those buildings can't change hands?
That will all go to the courts, and that is a concern.
Meanwhile, they'll just sit there and start to look not kept up.
Yeah, It's,
And, you know,
and that's, you know,
It's
several communities in Jefferson and Shelby County, and some out of state even, are going to be
there are some
dealing
in
with that.
Georgia.
And I'm already seeing side deals made there. Well, the courts can undo those side deals in a heartbeat. It's just going to be, when property gets tied up in the courts, it can create an eyesore in the heart of your community. We don't want that.
It is
Right.
definitely in the heart of the community.
I will say this. When those two buildings could go on the market, I would think Trussville would be one of the locations that would get a lot of attention very quickly. Somebody's going to want those buildings because of everything else going on in Trussville.
But the wind.
The wind is what you don't know. You're exactly right.
Well, that's an important story. That's why we continue to talk about it and to follow it. So anyway, okay. Well, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we've got news from Clay, Pinson, Leeds, Springville, and Moody. Stay with us.
I'm Drew Lawley, General Manager at Courtesy Buick GMC. Come see us at Courtesy, where we have over 300 vehicles to choose from, including GMCs, Buicks, and certified pre-owned vehicles. Come see us at Courtesy or check us out at courtesybirmingham.com. Proud supporter of our area high school teams.
If you don't have a will, trust, or some kind of estate plan, you're leaving your loved ones with a lot of headaches. Probate fees and tax issues bring stress to your family while they grieve your loss. Cahaba Law Group is here to protect them and give you reassurance that your hard-earned money and assets are not lost to bureaucratic mayhem. They can help you create the ideal estate plan. If you're currently in probate, Cahaba Law Group can help assist you there too. Plus, they can handle more than just probate. They can serve you in just about any legal matter. Begin now by scheduling a consultation at cahabalaw.net.
Okay, let's talk about, we followed the Clay story. We had Mayor Jane Anderton here last week to talk about the Clay City Fest. But at their meeting again this week, this whole situation with this employee firing just continues to not be resolved. So kind of explain to people what happened.
Well, the council had to vote whether or not to uphold
the
mayor's firing for the second time of the same employee. So there were some abstentions, and after the abstentions, it left two people voting. I think another council member was not at the meeting, maybe out of town. So the two people voting, one voted yes to uphold it, one voted no. So it died because there was no decision made. My understanding, and I think you shared this, they're having a called meeting at 5:30 this afternoon with the one who was out of town, that council person coming back, which gives three people voting. I don't know why anybody would have voted to not uphold the mayor's firing. We all saw the video. There is a point that as a council, you just need to really be realistic about what you're seeing and what's going on. If I were a city council person, I would have grave concerns about whether or not that employee was qualified to do the job he was hired to do originally, because I think that's kind of what led to this. There was the certification one there, and I've heard he's a good guy. So nothing personally against him. I don't know him, but I've heard people say he's a really good guy. This was an issue, and it was justified that the mayor took a look and made the decisions. And it is fine for councils to have differences of opinion, but I would remind them all, you're representing the city, the citizens of the city, and I just think you ought to be able to have a resolution on this thing, but hopefully that will get worked out.
The other
we'll see.
Yeah, the other interesting thing from their meeting was the whole thing about their 5 mil ad valorem tax. You know, the one we discussed it with her last week. They just did another one for different types of education. The previous administration ended that before they left office.
Right.
And then the new council voted on it under a whole new structure, basically. But when they went to file all that with the county, basically realized that the first 5 mills, it's almost like the paperwork didn't get taken care of. And so the city was actually facing paying 10 mills because the previous one basically did not get canceled correctly. And because they figured that out, they were able to get that taken care of before that locked in for another year. That was also, I mean, you have to really look at these Clay stories these days. There's a lot going on out there.
Well, I've got friends who were on the previous council and are still on council. And they are friends, and I think very highly of these folks. The previous administration canceling this on their way out the door did it with the support of some people who are still on that council, okay? Yeah. That probably should have stood up at that time and said, wait a minute, you're not going to drag the city into personal politics, because that's what this was about, personal, petty politics. And by people that I respect and think highly of, and I'm disappointed to this day to see the way that was handled going out. That's not who they are as people, and they shouldn't have done it.
And maybe it was just an oversight, but it was definitely good they got it figured out, because it says in the story, the county tax assessor notified the city that no record of the mandatory notification to remove the existing tax levy could be found with the county.
And this is where I'm going with this statement to the council, especially those who were on the previous council and are still on council today. And again, good people, all of them good people. That should have been your red flag. It was not handled properly by the former administration. It almost cost your city money. I really think it's important for the council and the mayor to put everything from the last election behind them and move forward together for the good of the city of Clay. All of them care about the city. Now that doesn't mean they're going to agree on everything and they're going to start singing Kumbaya. I don't expect that either. I like the fact that Clay has an active council that will question things, but some of you guys know you should have questioned more of the group who left office, and now you've got evidence laying on your plate that a lot of things weren't done right. It's really time to put the city of Clay as the priority and not politics. It frustrates me to see this because I love Clay. I think it's a great community. We spend a lot of time over there, and some of this stuff that is going on with this employee, with the financing stuff, it's unnecessary. It is really unnecessary. And I think it's time for that whole group to have a coming together and reprioritize where they are on things, making the city the priority. Yeah. Clay has an awful lot going for it. When you start digging in, other than the fact that they don't have their own school system, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, there's a lot going right in Clay, and a lot of opportunity for more things to go right in Clay. So I really, it's my desire to see that council kind of come together and get on the same page with things and stop this back and forth stuff. That's not helping anybody, and it's going to hurt your city.
I gotcha. Okay, let's turn to Pinson. And so this was interesting to see. This was from about a week ago, but it had not come out when we were here last week.
Yeah, I think it came out the same day, but after our show.
So we didn't want people to miss it because it is, anyway, it is important. So Pinson has set up, so a couple of weeks ago, they actually, through a grant, announced something where teachers in Pinson schools can get an extra $1,000 annually for being National Board Certified Teachers or through the Teacher Excellence for Accountability in Math and Science, or TEAMS it's called. Right. Now this time, they said there's more coming.
And that's on top of what the state gives these certifications.
So now they've announced an incentive structure for administrators, where for vice principals and principals, that if these different benchmarks, thank you, are met in their schools, there is financial incentive for them.
Met or maintained.
Yes.
Met or maintained. Can you run down, do you mind reading through the list? Because it's an impressive list.
So, for example, and we're seeing areas do this in lots of different ways, just like Irondale has a similar situation where the schools in their city or Jefferson County, but they give some incentives to maintain, to try to keep administrators.
I think all of our, this would
more
be Irondale, Clay, Pinson, and Centerpoint,
Yes.
4 cities in the Tribune area, who have always contributed to stipends for principals and coaches to up the salary and get them to their school. That's been a pretty common thing. This is, as you pointed out, kind of going above and beyond. And I'd love for you to read the list because I think that says...
different amounts of money are given for different performances. Increase the overall score, I think the school score,
the ACAP
by
scores.
1 letter grade, $2,000.
That's a school report card.
And if I'm understanding that correctly, that's for assistant principals and the principals.
I think you're right.
Maintain the letter grade of C, 1,000. Maintain letter grade of B, 3,000. Maintain letter grade of A, 5,000. And so it goes on and on from there. Increase 5% in one area. ELA, math, science, $50. Increase it in 2 areas, $100. Reducing chronic absenteeism, which we know because
Bingo.
we talk about it so much in the Trussville school system. And there's been a big emphasis here on how that will change your school ranking. 5% reduction, $500. 10% reduction, $500. Maintained at less than 10%, $1,000. And so that is really wonderful incentives for administrators.
I would say,
Go Pinson.
Mayor Sanders, Pinson City Council, take a bow. This is a home run. This is what, and I would say the other 3 cities in the Tribune coverage area, and they may already be looking at this, but I love this.
Yeah,
okay?
this is a great, and all the details are here for anybody interested in looking at
we just
it.
reported those school report cards a few months ago, okay? And they weren't good. Shades Valley, I think, was not bad. Centerpoint's report card scores were higher than Clay and Pinson. A lot of improvement at Centerpoint. That's a good thing because you got to improve. You got to improve to make it better. But I know the people in Clay and Pinson were not happy with what they saw. Yeah. And this is the city council saying, look, you're not our schools, your county schools, but we support you. And we have supported you for years. And we're looking at these test scores and we want them to improve, and we're going to put our money where our mouth is. So it is a very positive way, very positive incentive for these principals and assistant principals to put the nose to the grindstone and work a little harder and get those scores up.
And they've incentivized everybody.
Everybody.
There's something on the table for everybody. If you're a teacher or you're an administrator.
Right. Here's the
There's
problem.
money on the table.
Even though these are not city schools, they affect the cities where they're located. That's who their kids are zoned for. That can affect home values. It can affect whether or not businesses think you're a growing, thriving, and want to locate in your community or not. It will affect people who decide where they're going to move and where they're going to buy a home. And I absolutely applaud the Pinson Mayor and Council for doing this. I hope we see the same thing in Irondale. I hope we see it in Centerpoint. I hope we see it in Clay, where they're also sending a message here to the schools that the city, despite the fact that you're not city schools, we do have expectations. And we want to see those expectations met. And again, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. I love it. I hope it goes forward. And I'm going to tell you, I would say this to county schools. We just had Patrick Martin sitting here, who was the appointed Gardendale superintendent when they went through that fiasco of a federal court case. I would say to the Jefferson County Board of Education, you probably dodged a bullet there, but the mood of the Supreme Court on down through the federal courts is very different than it was when Gardendale, in my opinion, was mistreated. I would not count on future federal court wins like the one you got against Gardendale. I think when these cities can walk into a federal court and say, we want to become a city system because this is a massive failure and our kids deserve better, we think we can do better. I think they're going to meet a federal court with a different attitude than was there when Gardendale tried to do that same thing. A lot have said Trussville will be the last system to ever leave Jefferson County. I don't necessarily think that's the case. You keep producing test scores like you're doing right now, and you're telling Clay, take your chances. And Clay may take that chance and win. Pinson may take that chance and win. Centerpoint may take that chance and win. It's hard. It's pretty easy for all 4 of those cities to go back to a federal court and say, you can't do any worse by letting us take it over. So hopefully we will see improvement. That is what these city leaders really want. They don't want to take the schools over. They just want to see improvement. Right. And they have every right to ask for that.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's talk about, leads. Now, I don't want to get something on this story wrong because it is a little bit more complicated, but we, even through the election cycle last summer, heard a lot of talk about this potential development on Norman Drive.
Right.
I know it involves some housing, it involves some apartments. There was a lot of concerns about traffic issues, and I think basically what the mayor of Leeds said the other night was that they have reached some agreement and made some changes when it comes to the entrance and the exit of the property, some natural barriers to Norman Drive, and so hopefully that is going to make everybody happy. And he said, I'm happy to announce that nobody can win at everything, but we're doing the very best we can to make the situation basically as good as we can.
Right.
And I think some of these deals were made before he was in office, but they were just trying to change it to make, there were lots of people in the community that weren't happy about different parts of it.
Eddie kind of walked into this buzzsaw, and he knew that it was coming, and he was gonna probably have to deal with it. I think part of this is the previous administration rushed through a lot of things before the new administration took over. I don't want to go too far out on that, but I think Eddie's got his handle on it. I think the Leeds Council does. It'd probably be great if we could get Eddie in here in a week or two to kind of address the changes.
Other thing he talked about at the meeting that was interesting too was he made an announcement warning about a scam in which people in the city were getting fake emails as if they owed had an outstanding invoice from planning and zoning. And so he stressed that the city will never make calls or send emails asking for money like that.
The best I know, planning and zoning does no billing.
No, I know, it's totally ridiculous. But anyway, if people are not aware of that, make sure that everybody is aware of that in the area too. And then, what else do we have? Oh, let's talk about the Moody police chief graduated from the FBI National Academy. That's a leadership thing, and so that's a win for their community as well. And so we have a couple of pictures there of Police Chief Reese Smith, who graduated from that National Academy. And so that's just like a 10-week program of leadership curriculum specific for law enforcement.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations to Reese. Great job there. And I'll tell you, Chief, that story got a ton of attention on the website. A lot of people read that. A lot of enthusiastic response to that. So he's doing a great job. Really proud of the job he's doing. That's another one we probably need to get back in. So.
Okay, and before, we've had quite a show today. Before we get away, it is the 4th of July is coming up quickly.
Right.
So Springville has kind of kicks off that next week's events. They have their Freedom on Main celebration this Saturday. So they had released this map of where they're closing the roads. You can't access Main Street on Saturday with your car. You can see those 2 red lines on that map. That closes off at 2:30, and it's closed till about 9:45 that night after the fireworks and everything. But also, I really brought that to people's attention in case you want to go to the Freedom on Main celebration. And then Brady our editor, has put out a really great list of all the firework opportunities.
Across Central Alabama.
So even
if you're traveling, you could probably find one close by.
Yes, and that is there at TrussvilleTribune.com, so don't miss that, because starting, like I said, from this Saturday, there's also, you can see that there's fireworks in Argo at the Argo 250 celebration, and then you can just go down the list of Clay, Irondale, Leeds. You can firework yourself to pieces.
And of course, the Trussville Freedom Celebration.
For days and days. Within those 3 or 4 days span, there are so many opportunities.
It's going to be fun
to see fireworks.
It's going to be fun, and it is a special 4th of July because we're celebrating our 250th. You know, as somebody old enough that I remember well the bicentennial celebration. It was a big deal. Honestly, this has not had the same buzz.
I know.
And it's been a little disappointing to me.
a little bit bigger too.
Yeah.
But
I'm telling you, in 1976, every stinking thing was about the bicentennial from January 1 until the year ended. And it was great. It was wonderful. There was such a good coming together of small community
I'm a
states.
bicentennial baby.
Yeah, are you really?
Yeah, and Ryan bought me a shirt last year. I love it. It's so cute. It's the spirit of '76. It's really cute.
Well, I was getting my permit, learner's permit when you were born. So, but it really was, and that has been a bit of a disappointment to me. Is that I don't feel that same buzz about 250, and I think some of it is just the attitude of people nationally that need to get over themselves and understand this is about America. It's not about any one president. It's about America, and it's a great chance for us to celebrate each other regardless of who's in the White House. You know?
Well, take an opportunity to look at that and go see fireworks when you can. Don't forget about Birmingham's Thunder on the Mountain. That's always a good one at Vulcan Park.
Yeah.
So, and I'll let you know what the 250 celebration looks like from Orlando, because I'll be with Georgia at dance.
I tell you right now, it's going to be spectacular in Orlando, I promise you.
I don't know, I might be in a convention hall watching dances, so we'll see. We'll see what happens that day.
Well, that'll be spectacular, too.
That'll be great,
we'll all be pulling for Georgia while we're watching our fireworks here.
Our friends. So anyways, but you'll have some visitors next week hanging out with you.
We will. We've got Dan O'Rourke coming next week, I believe.
And Lisa Bright is coming.
And Lisa Bright is coming.
For restoration.
Right.
And that's always a big event here.
Well, and they may be co-hosting while they're here. We'll see how that.
Don't know what they're going to get into.
We'll see how that goes.
Okay.
But we'll have a show, and that will be the second, I believe.
It is the second.
And I can tell you, at about 1:45 that afternoon, you'll see nothing but from tail lights.
Yeah, headed to the lake. I got you. I mean, headed to the mountains.
That's it.
So anyway, all right. Well, we hope you have a great rest of the day and weekend. Scott will see you next week.
She'll be in Orlando. Craving a cold craft brew and some top-notch entertainment? Join us at Ferris Artisan Ales and Eatery in the heart of the Trussville Entertainment District. We're your go-to spot for free live music, great food, drinks, and the biggest screen in town for enjoying live sports. Grab a seat, enjoy a refreshing Coca-Cola, and cheer on your favorite team with